So if you're familiar with the old ePortfolio, you'll notice that some of the learning log types have changed, and we've tried to make that list smaller. To understand a little bit more about what each of the learning log types is about, if you click on it, at the top it'll explain what is this particular type of learning log, and that's the same with all of these different types of learning log. So it's worth spending a few minutes just looking through to see what they are looking at specifically. The requirements for the number of different types of learning logs can be found here under requirements. So you'll notice that it's now mandatory to do 36 clinical case reviews during each year of training. And this is changed from the old system. So the clinical case reviews have replaced the clinical encounter, which is the main type of learning log you're going to be using. And we've simplified it by reducing the number of questions. So you'll have a title, you'll have the date and what sort of clinical case sort of encounter occurred. And then we want a brief description. So we're talking a few lines here. We don't want lots and lots of clinical information. Then you can choose your clinical experience groups, and you can choose up to 2, but you don't have to choose any. So only choose them if they're relevant. And then you want to be thinking about the capabilities that you demonstrated during this case. So if you use the old ePortfolio, the educational supervisor will have chosen the capabilities after they've read your log. We've now switched this around so you can be choosing which capabilities you've demonstrated. So decide which capability you think you want to demonstrate in this case based on what you found. And then if you want to, you can spend a few minutes justifying how you demonstrated that capability. And to help you do that, you can open up the word descriptors for each of the capabilities here. So if you wanted to look at data gathering, it would show you the word descriptors. If you were going to be talking about making a diagnosis, the word descriptors change. And so the information here, when you get to your educational supervisor report, can be pulled through to help as a piece of evidence to demonstrate your competence in this particular area. So as I say, you don't have to do it here, but it does make a lot of sense to do it now rather than having to wait until you get to your ESR. And you can choose up to 3 capabilities to demonstrate in each log. Then you must move on and think about the reflection and learning which you've sort of gathered from this case. So what we'd like you to do in this case is to think about the word descriptors, think about what you would change to demonstrate either competence or excellence. So if you look at the word descriptors, here you may be working around needs further development, and that would be normal for ST1 too, but what would you need to do to move you across to this or over to excellent? So I want you to comment on that and any other reflections you might have got. And then any learning needs that you've identified from this event and how you might address them later. The private notes area is only for yourself, so no one else is able to see that at all. And you don't have to use it. If you find that you write something about the capability or add a capability and your educational supervisor disagrees that you demonstrated this capability, then they might remove it. But the text, the justification hasn't been lost. That will appear down here in these private notes so that you can use them again for another capability or to add them elsewhere. You also have the option of adding files and attachments, which you can do here, and then you can save it and it will send it to your educational supervisor to review. So that's just a brief overview, mainly focusing on the clinical case reviews, but obviously there's lots of different types of log entry, as I've explained. So it's worth just spending a bit of time looking through those, looking through the Workplace-Based Assessment Handbook, which will explain how we want you to use these logs in more detail, and hopefully will answer any questions you might have.